excited are you to return?
Listen, I am so excited to be coming back to a country that I love to come to and play and perform. I was just there last week, as you know, and I'm so looking forward to this tour.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because you did a private concert in Piracicaba near São Paulo with Matt Sorum, Steve Stevens, Lizzie Hale, Robbins, and many great musicians. How was the experience?
It was great. I mean, you know, I'd known about this show for a couple of months, and to perform again with Kings of Chaos and Matt and Steve and Gilby are my longtime friends, and to work with Lizzie was fantastic, and Joe, and it was incredible.
Amazing. I wasn't there, it's a shame, but I watched the live stream. And besides the Purple songs, I loved hearing you sing Guns N' Roses and Velvet Revolver songs.
Yeah.
Did you like this too?
You know, Matt asked me, do you want to do these couple of songs? And I love singing with Lizzie, as you could see. And it was a great moment. So I'm really happy to let my Brazilian fans see that show.
Amazing. Just out of curiosity, do you like these two bands, Guns N' Roses, Velvet Revolver? What do you think about them?
Well, they're friends of mine. So I've known Guns since the beginning. So, and of course, you know, Velvet Revolver, we're all LA, everybody lives in LA, so it's a small town, you know.
Yeah. And you are currently touring the UK, am I right?
Yes, I'm starting my tour tonight.
Yeah. And what is it like for you touring at home after many concerts in North America?
Oh man, I mean, it's always great to come home to the country I was born in, you know. So I'm English, as you know, but I've been living in America for 50 years.
Yeah.
So it's great for me to be home in my homeland.
Yeah, and that North American tour that I mentioned before, was it with Yngwie Malmsteen? And I know you guys have been friends for a long time, but how was the experience of touring with Yngwie?
Oh, I mean, you know, I've known Yngwie for a long time, but our show was fantastic. It was very well received, and I'm doing another tour next February.
Oh, that's good to know. And we all know that Yngwie is a big fan of Purple. You can easily hear the influence, but you, as a former member of a band that influenced him so much, I would like to know, what is your opinion about Yngwie's music?
It's great. I mean, Yngwie is an innovator. There's only one guitar player in the world that plays like him, and he created that style. Although he's a Ritchie Blackmore fanatic, as you know. But, you know, Yngwie is an innovator of guitar playing in that genre.
Yeah. And now talking about the shows in Brazil, you're celebrating Burn's 50th anniversary. And after so many years, what is your opinion about this album? How well has it aged for you?
Oh, look, this album is an iconic piece of work. And it's an album that kept the Deep Purple flag flying really high, you know. So David and I came in, as you know, in 1973, and we wrote those songs with the guys. And I believe that album is an iconic record from the 1970s. And I'm honored to be bringing it to Brazil to play live.
Amazing. Well, on the other hand, from what I have seen in recent set lists, you don't play Burn in its entirety. Is there any specific reason for this?
You know, Igor, I wanted to play songs that I felt translated for the live performance, you know.
Yeah.
And the songs I've chosen work well for the audience. And there are, you know, some kind of jams in there, not taking away from the actual song. We all know what it is, but I've been playing these songs and it's a definite vibe and feel. So I feel the songs I'm playing, the 5 songs, are appropriate.
Yeah. And since the previous Brazilian tour, I have also seen some diehard fans wondering why you play Smoke on the Water and Highway Star, since they are songs from the Mark II lineup. I think it would be a good opportunity to clarify, why do you choose to play these specific songs?
I'm not playing Smoke on the Water. You know, I don't particularly feel like I want to play that song. But with Highway Star, it's a song that I believe I sing well, you know. And I'd much prefer to do Mark III and Mark IV, but right now I'm still doing Highway Star. At some point I will stop playing it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and to perform these classic Purple songs, you need excellent musicians. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you have Soren Anderson on guitars, Ash Sheehan on the drums, and Bob Friedsman on the keyboards.
Right. That's right.
Could you tell us a little more about each of them?
Well, Sarah has been with me for 17 years, and he's been to Brazil many times with me before. And he's my right-hand man and close friend. And he plays in the Stratocaster, and it's very Blackmore-ish. So he fits the bill perfectly. Ash Sheehan has been with me for 6 years. It's his first time in Brazil, so... But I'm excited for him because he's very, very, very good drummer. Excellent drummer. And Bob Friedsman is my new keyboard player. So he plays the Hammond. So what I'm doing, Igor, I'm bringing these musicians with me that understand the Purple legacy, the Purple sound, the vibration, and I believe it's the right band to play these songs.
Absolutely. And another cool thing about your tours in Brazil is that you always play in several cities. It's very rare for an international artist to play more than 3 or 4 shows in Brazil. But
yeah.
Last time you played in 9 cities, and this time you play in 8 cities. We love that. How do you see the interest of so many Brazilian cities in having your concert?
You know, Igor, it's important for me to tell my Brazilian fans in the cities, you know, other than Sao Paulo and Rio, you know, and Belo Horizonte, there's a lot of people that want to see me and make requests for me to come to these smaller, beautiful cities, you know. Okay, I want to make that clear. Every city to me and every town in Brazil is very important. So for me, I haven't been to see you with my band for 5 years. So for me to get a chance to play in every city when I can, I'm going to play.
Amazing. Well, and considering that this tour celebrates Burn's 50th anniversary, I'd like to do a quick track by track session with you.
Of course.
Starting with the title track, Burn, an incredible introduction to the Mark III lineup. Do you remember the process of writing and recording this specific song?
I do. You know, that was the last song we wrote in the castle. We went down to the pub, but we didn't have a final song. And Blackmore said, why don't we write a song called Burn? So we went down drunk and we wrote that song. So that was the last song we wrote.
Amazing. And I have always had the impression that the title track Burn kind of glues different songs together. It's like having 2 or 3 different hard rock songs in one. Especially the part that you sing. Do you remember how that specific part came about?
Look, we wrote the classic part of Burn, you know, the very Bach influenced John Lord vibe. And then we came to this section where we hadn't. So I suggested to play those chords, and I sang, you know, that's a Glenn thing, as you can hear, but it works really well. That middle section where I call it the bridge section, was something that Purple had never done before. So I thought it was a unique thing.
Amazing. Well, there's a lot of talk about Burn's main riff being ripped from a song written in the 40s, Fascinating Rhythm from George Gershwin. You already talked about this in another recent interview, but at the time, in the 70s, it was even more common from artists to borrow from other artists, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Richie ripped it off from Fascinating Rhythm. It just kind of sounded like it. I don't think he did it deliberately, but when we listened to those 2 songs, Gene Simmons is the one that told me about that, so it's Gene's fault for talking about it. But yes, indeed, it does sound a little bit like that.
Yeah, and then you have Might Just Take Your Life, and you said before that you don't think this song could have been written for the Mark II lineup because of that bluesy bass feel. But funny enough, as far as I know, it was written mainly by John Lord, who was in the Mark II lineup, of course.
Right.
How much do you believe the writing process of the Deep Purple changed with your and David's arrival, especially among the remaining three guys?
Well, you know, when we went into the castle to write that album, we had no real idea of what songs were going to appear. But knowing that David and I were different to Gillen and Glover, and I sing, as you know, they knew, Richie, John, and Ian, that we were creating a different genre, but keeping it classic rock. We just remember now, we weren't trying to do anything other than making a rock album. And we felt that Might Just Take Your Life with John's intro was a great way to start the song.
Yeah, and what do you think of Might Just Take Your Life nowadays? I know that you always enjoy the blues-based feel, but what do you think about this song nowadays?
Listen, Igor, I love that song. I play it live, as you know. It's great, man. I mean, I get to sing both my part and David's part, and it works really well. Again, this is a song I play live, and I really do. I love singing it.
Yeah, and then comes Lay Down, Stay Down with a fast rhythm, again, as in the title track. Ian Pace has a brilliant performance here, but there's no good drum work without good bass work. I love the bass line in the chorus. What do you remember about working on this song? Not only the vocals, but also the bass.
Now, look, those songs were written pretty quickly, and we were in that room in the dungeon of this castle, and we created that groove, and that bass line is something that was very important for that chorus. You know, it could have been very simple open chords. It could have been down, ba, but do 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 da do do do. It was difficult, but it sounded great.
Amazing. And you are rightly called the voice of rock, but since I mentioned your bass playing, do you believe that perhaps your work as a bassist isn't as recognized as it should be? I mean, you're also an amazing bass player, but people don't talk it that much. What do you think about it?
It's a well-known conversation when people talk about Glenn. They talk about the voice of rock, which is fantastic. But they sometimes forget I'm also I love playing bass. I love to play bass. I really appreciate people talking about my voice, but I want people to know in Brazil, I love to play bass.
Yeah. And next we have Sail Away, and I think this song represents a lot of the sounds of Deep Purple on the next two albums. I've already read you say that this is one of your favorite songs on the album. What do you like the most about it?
I love the groove. The groove is very important to me. It's a different groove than Purple had written before. And with me coming into the band, it was the right kind of groove that we wrote for David and I. And it was a definite departure from Mark II. But Sail Away is one of my favorite songs on the album. And David and I sang so well together.
Yeah. Then we have You Fool No One, which perhaps features one of the best drum performances in rock history, in my opinion.
I agree.
You have mentioned in other interviews that this song was influenced by Ian Pace listening to Led Zeppelin at the time, but I'm curious about how it was written. Was the drum groove the first idea, or did the groove come from another melodic idea? What was the order?
You know, in my opinion, the song started out in a jam. Pacey was playing that groove, and we all, Richie, John, and myself started playing in E, and the song came about from a drum groove.
Amazing. And we talked about recognition before. Do you believe that Ian Pace should perhaps be more remembered among the best drummers in history? A lot is said about Bohan, and he was incredible too, but Pace is also among the greatest in history, don't you think?
I do. I think, Ian Pace and John Bonham in the 70s were the two drummers in the early 70s. They were the two leaders.
Yeah. And then comes What's Going On Here, which brings back some of the blues vibe we heard in Might Just Take Your Life. And it's a song where the dynamic between you and David works really well. What memories do you have of recording this song, specifically the vocal parts with David?
It was a jam, Igor. It was a very simple jam, and we just, we're just basically making things up at the microphone. And what you hear on that song is a real jam.
Yeah. And people always talk about singers having ego battles, but you and David always sounded very selfless, not only on this record, on the other two as well. What was it like
Yeah,
working with David on this album as a whole?
it was great. David and I have always been really good friends, and we never, ever worried about who was singing this, who's not going to sing this. We were very good with each other, supportive of one and each other as friends, but also vocalists.
Yeah. Then comes Mistreated, and unique song in Purple's entire catalog, in my opinion. You said before that when Richie first played you the riff, you knew immediately how at home you'd be in Purple. What do you think of this song almost 50 years later?
It's a great song. I love singing it. As you know, you've probably heard me sing it before. It's a song that I will always sing. It's one of my all-time favorite Purple songs, and it's a blessing. Richie played me that song before David joined, and I knew when he started playing me that little riff, I think, okay, we're going to have a good album here. If this was the first song he'd written for the album, I knew we were going to have a great album.
Yeah, and Richie is also in a very inspired moment here. And I also think that many fans end up remembering Richie more for the controversies than for his gigantic talent. What was it like working with Richie at the time?
It was great. Richie and I were very close back in that period. I was at his house, and we were very friendly. Um, I only have beautiful things to say about Richie. You know, we hear a lot of crazy stories about him, but genuinely, underneath all the stories and all the gossip and all the rumors, he's a good, kind, funny man.
Really, I can't imagine Richie being a funny guy because of the stories, of course.
He's a real funny guy.
Yeah, and finally we have the gigantic instrumental A200, a great way to end a great album,
Thank
right?
you. Yeah, it was again another jam. John had an idea, and we let John kind of with the drum da 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 da, very bolero-ish. Again, it was another jam, and this one really wasn't written at the castle. It was basically written as we were recording.
Yeah, and what was it like to work with John? He always seemed to be a super cool and unique person in rock music in general. Is that right?
John, in my opinion, I've worked with John on both Keith Emerson and John Lord. John was a good, kind, considerate gentleman who was a tremendous piano player as well. But John Lord was a genuinely good, talented, very kind human being.
Yeah, and we close this burn section, and I have some questions about the present and the future. The first is about your recent departure from the Dead Daisies. You recorded two great albums with the band, but you left after the second one. I heard you say in an interview that your departure was because the band would take a break this year, but you wanted to continue touring. That was it, right? Or there's some specific reason also too?
They wanted to take a break, and I decided I didn't want to take a break. I mean, I wanted to get back to my own work. I wanted to do another album with Joe Bonamassa and Jason and Derek, which we did. I love the Dead Daisies. I have great friends in the Dead Daisies, but I didn't particularly want to take a 6-month break, as I'm at a point in my life now where I want to work and carry the message of my music to as many people as possible. So I wish the Dead Daisies nothing but love, but I'm really back with my own band again, enjoying that life.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you recorded an album with the Black Country Communion. Is it already done?
It's all finished, yeah, and it's I heard the mixes last week. I'm really happy with that. Album number 5 is spectacular.
Amazing. How is it going to sound? Is it more like the fourth album, the first album? What is the music on it?
It's a continuation of all 4. I think when you play them, you know, one by one, the 5th one will sound a progression from the last one. I really believe this one could be our favorite one. I really do.
Yeah. And I know that you have been planning to release a solo album, the first one in 9 years.
Yeah.
Could you please give us an update about this project?
Yeah, I am preparing to go in the studio next year, Igor. Sometime in the summer. I'm preparing the songs in the next couple of months. I have a few ideas, and when I go in the studio, I'll be ready to go.
Yeah, and you released Resonate 8 years ago. How this album aged for you musically?
I love the album. It's one of my favorite albums. I think a lot of people across the world, the rock fans, love that album. I was at home writing that album, and I went to Copenhagen, and I had a really great time making that album. And you know, the next one hopefully will be as strong.
Amazing. And considering, of course, the albums that you mentioned, what are your next plans also for this year and the next year?
Well, you know, I'm going to see you in Brazil. I mean, I'm doing my UK tour. I pretty much sold out here in the UK. I'm coming to see you in early November, in all those incredible cities and all those fans. I love my fans in Brazil so much. So, and then I go home, and then I'm going to spend some time with my wife and family for the Christmas holiday. And in January, I do some rehearsals with Black Country Communion. And then on February the 2nd, I start my next American tour in Los Angeles.